Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a new show to the football show with myself, Mark, Imran, and Kyle. Brand new season, and we are getting ready to have the conversations that we so enjoy having with you about all things football. So it's new. We are back and we are ready to go. How are you both doing, guys? It's been a long break, but football
Yep,
is back. How are we doing? 11 weeks precisely.
you've been counting down the weeks.
I've
Yeah,
been counting down, man.
I'm doing great, thank you. And yeah, I'm excited. I mean, not the best of start, but still promising signs for the new
Oh, we
season.
get we'll get into that in a minute in terms of not the best start, but for who? What about you, Kyle? How are things going, man?
Pretty similar to be fair. I mean, yeah, in terms of a Chelsea point, yeah, we got with 3 points against Everton, but looking forward to the rest of the season, I'm a little bit shaky, a little bit wary.
A little bit shaky. I'm loving the yellow, man. The yellow shirt looks great.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite Chelsea kits in recent years, man. I absolutely love it.
Well, I have to say it does look pretty amazing, and Imran is giving it the nod of approval. So I guess it works. So welcome to anybody who is joining us across our social media platforms today. Great to have you, and hope that you will continue to engage with us as we run through this season. It's going to be an interesting one, I think, because it's for the first time we're going to have a break. And
Yeah,
we'll talk about that a little bit in the show today as well. And this is going to be a little bit unusual, so we will see how things work. But let's get going because you know we talk about the season being back, but in truth, there has been a lot of football being played over the course of the summer, and naturally, I think this is the right place for us to start, guys.
yep.
Um, we don't have to sing that song anymore, right?
It has come home.
It has. It has. It
Finally.
has. Did you manage to catch any of the Lionesses games over the course of the summer?
Well, I think for the majority of it, I was busy on the Commonwealth Games, but I did manage to catch the final, which is great, and I think it was a really entertaining watch, and yeah, a good advertisement for women's football on the whole.
I thought it was a superb tournament actually, and
Yeah,
I felt the amount of time that you can see the ball actually being in play in a football match was incredible. You know,
yeah.
we don't normally see so much football being played over the space of 90 minutes in the men's game, so it was very entertaining. What about yourself, Carl? You caught any of it?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty similar to Imran in the sense that I was quite wrapped up in the Commonwealth Games because we are quite local in Birmingham and the Commonwealth Games were actually here in Birmingham. So most of the latter side of the tournament I missed, but I got a lot of the group games. And in terms of the overall tournament outside of the Lionesses, I managed to catch a few of the knockout games with Germany and Sweden, but not much of the Lionesses due to the fact that I was working.
Oh, that's a bit sad. I think I caught the 8-0 hammering of Norway, and also the performance against Sweden. I didn't quite catch the final, but I thought it was a superb tournament, and I really think this is a turning point for football generally. Even the crowds at the games were
Yeah.
different to the men's game, and
Absolutely.
if we can get some of that translating across into the men's game, and it becomes a lot more attractive to families, and people feel a lot safer going to football,
Yeah,
why not? Absolutely, one hundred
I would
percent.
agree 100%. Yeah, I think if you compare how the Euros final last year
Oh
in the
my word.
men's went in Wembley compared to how this one went, and then your point about how the ball stays in play more, it was something that I really noticed as well. Like
Yeah,
less rolling around, less complaining to the ref. It was a much
Hmm.
better advocate for the game of football, honestly.
yeah. I think there's a lot to be proud of there as far as the that championship is concerned, and
Yeah,
of course, as far as England are concerned, it's home now. So
yeah,
somebody's gonna have to come up with a new song for the World Cup later this year, even.
yeah.
Or
The men's
unless we're gonna
team,
say it's coming
no.
home again.
Again, part two.
Oh, yeah, part two, absolutely. So listen, we gotta say welcome to anyone who has joined our fantasy league this season, because this is a new year for us, and we had 27 players last year, and from what we've seen so far this year, we've gone up by another seven, so I think we're up to 34 with one or two others sitting in the background there until game week 2.
Yeah.
So this is a good one. I think it's a really good one to see that the league has grown again this year.
Yeah, I think just by looking at that, look how strong the start has been as well. I mean, we had
My
great
word,
competition
man.
last year. It's actually a bit like the Premier League. The competition just gets stronger and stronger every year, and I think this is set to be another record-breaking season for this league.
I
it,
certainly hope so. Like
Yeah.
if it's anywhere near as competitive as it was last season, then we're in for a very entertaining year.
Yeah, and I have to say there are some brand new names in there this year. You know, we've got the usual suspects who are back. They will know who they are, right?
Yeah.
The likes of Paul Thorpe is back there. We can see defending champion Wayne Skeet is back there. Adam Bonham is back there. Vincenzo, Stephen Hughes, Travis, obviously. And just looking down that list, we've got Christian Corbin is back there as well. Didier is back there. So a lot of who we had as you know, contenders or pretend contenders, even if you want to say that, back for a new season. So it's great to see that at least we are growing the league. So it was, you know, a strong start. 84 points for Shaw ate the lot. A friend of you guys, right?
Yeah.
I actually think that's one of the better names in the league this season.
I'd
Yeah,
agree.
absolutely.
I mean, you know, I like my football puns, and I think this one ranks quite
That
highly.
takes the cake. Absolutely. Shaw ate the lot. So he's a friend of both of yours anyway. So he's the early front runner with the number one position for the league. What do you make of his team in game week 1?
I mean, well, it's interesting. He's a United fan, and he's not got a single United player. So
What faith!
yeah, shows what he thinks about United, and rightly so, I guess, based on their start. But I think he's managed to get it right with a lot of the calls he's chosen. I think to get both Salah and Son in there is good, as well as Kulusevski, which is, I'm surprised he's actually gone for the whole Spurs front three so early on. I thought in the first few weeks you'd want to diversify it a bit, but the fact that he's gone for it and it's worked, I mean, fair play to him.
Spurs have quite a nice run into the season, don't they? Like Spurs.
Yeah,
and
they do
Chelsea
have a good start. They do have a good start. Yeah.
He's got what 6 out of that front 7 scoring at the weekend.
Yeah,
which is quite phenomenal.
Yeah,
actually.
Well, that's why he's top of the table. And he managed to get that amount of points without getting the captaincy bang on as well.
Yeah. Even though I'm not sure what that point there, but Son was, you know, Son, Kulusevski, and Kane as a trio for Spurs, looking a little bit like what Liverpool used to look like with their front three. You know, I know it's early days. I know it's early days, but fair play to him. He was quite strong and, you know, deservingly so. Was raised to the top of the league. So we will see how that play out. Arjun or Shaw at the lot. We will see how that plays out as the season continues. So now, normally I am sitting here waiting my turn very patiently as we go through the three of us, you know, but there's a slight change today. So Kyle, you outperformed myself and Imran at the weekend. Your team Corb Invincibles performed the most points. So talk us through the strategy, man. Come on.
I mean, to be honest, this isn't really a shock. This happens every single season I play Fantasy Premier League. Like,
you have a strong start.
All guns blazing and get the most points in the league. For like, this is like the 4th, 5th season in a row I've been in the top 3. And then it just goes downhill from there. But what surprised me this weekend, actually, is Arjun not only got the most points, but I think he's leading by like 11, 12 points, which I can't remember happening. Like, I can't remember that big a gap being like given on the very first weekend in, I don't think ever that I've been in the league. So, you know, hats off to him. But 72 points from me, I was very satisfied with it. Granted,
I'm very to Edward and Mateta, actually.
You know, one of them.
That's very random.
I have a lot of faith in Vieira, actually, hence why I've gone for 2 Palace players up front. But my big one was, I'm sure a lot of people's big one who have both Salah and Haaland was whether to captain one or the other this weekend, because I'm sure everyone knew it was inevitable that Salah would score in the opening weekend. So it was just a matter of how much he would score against Fulham. And I guess I backed him more than I backed Haaland, which, you know, well, we all know that played out, but it is what it is. The rest of the team, I'm very satisfied with. I'm very glad, by the way, that Reguilon didn't play because he actually had Gabriel on the bench. So thanks to Reguilon not playing, Gabriel was able to come in with that clean sheet against Palace, which was extremely needed. Unfortunately, Alisson didn't give me the clean sheet I wanted in goal, and I've got Sanchez.
He wouldn't give you many this season. Don't worry about it. He wouldn't give you many.
Wow, I'm not going to comment on that just yet. But
leave that for Imran. What do you make of his start then, Imran? He's gone strong.
I think I think we'll see a lot in the league. The split in the top half and the bottom half will be just based on who picked Haaland v who picked Kane for their premium striker. And I think obviously for this week, the people that picked Haaland will win. But I think over the course of the season, I still back Kane, and that's why I went with Kane. And I think I
What?
suffered a bit. I would still back Kane over Haaland this season, but yeah, we can have that discussion a bit later.
Man, I'm gonna enjoy watching this back. We will see how that lives on the internet. That would.
Yeah, of course.
Wow. Well, I as I said, I was quite delighted when the points tally came through, because I think this is probably one of the few times, Imran, where I have managed to finish ahead of you in a game week. So
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Enjoy it whilst you can. Enjoy it whilst you can.
I will. I decided this year, I took so much of a beating last season. I need to get off to a good start. I was a little bit worried on Saturday midday-ish, when it was languishing down in about 27th. But I thought, just calm down.
Yeah.
It's going to come to you. So, I am a strong believer, having done some good. Probably I've never done this before. I've done some good background research on Haaland. So
Wow.
I thought, this guy, man, this is the guy. This is the guy. So I've got a lot of faith, if he stays fit, that he will deliver consistently. Because anybody playing in that Man City team who is a decent finisher will score a bundle of goals. There's no two ways about it.
Agreed.
So I've gone with him. I wasn't too sure about your guy Darwin, because he's had a good preseason. He scored quite a few goals. So I thought I'll take a chance with him. And so too did Jesus. He had a pretty good preseason with a lot of goals for Arsenal. But he was desperate to get on the score sheet on Friday night, but didn't. But again, I can't complain. I felt as though the team delivered for me. I got a clean sheet with Edison. He will be my keeper for the season. I don't generally change my keeper over the course of the season anyway. Players like Esse and Mahrez and Rashford are my rotators.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So they're the ones that will likely get rotated out. Son is naturally going to be my staple, along with Van Dijk and possibly Koulibaly at the back there. So started well, and I was quite pleased with my 62 points.
I think looking at that front three, that is a very, very solid.
It is a really good
front
front three.
Yeah. Put them all in.
Yeah, man. As I said, I've got to recover from last year, man. It is not fashionable for me to be, occupying the lower echelons of the league and having you guys make fun of me every week as though I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm just saying. So hold your third place and relax, man.
Is Salah definitely a whole 1 million more than Son this year from the start? Salah's the only 13 million player. Is that right?
Yeah. De Bruyne and
because
Son
it's just very noticeable that you've once again decided to go without Salah in your team. It just feels like you have an entire vendetta against him. You haven't had him in your team for 3.5 seasons. Man's got the golden boot every year, 3 years in a row.
I am sticking with my call. I'm an anti-Salah man. So I'm delighted that Haaland has come to the league. So let's see what happens. So go on then, Imran. You're pulling up the rear this time.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the rear, and I think that just speaks not to me, but to the quality of the league. I think when I was looking through the results and looking at my points, and I saw 59, which is above the average, by the way, I think the average was 57 this week. And 59, I think I thought was a pretty solid start. My captain performed, and I got a couple decent scorers. I looked to the league and it was 19th position. I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing, to be honest with you. And I was like, damn, that's like a wake-up call for me. But I think nothing to worry about, nothing to panic. I think over the course of the week, the stronger teams will filter out towards the top, and I still have faith that I can do that. I think obviously I was let down by Kane, but I don't think that will happen too often this season. And of course the Alisson and Van Dijk partnership. But once again, it was a rough start, but Alisson and Van Dijk, Liverpool as a whole, will get their act together eventually.
I think they will, but this is a season where you need to hit the ground running, I suspect, because of the disruptive nature of the World Cup coming in November, and we got to see what happens in game week 2 with Liverpool. Because to be honest, I was not that impressed last weekend. If I'm honest,
I would agree with you 100%. Yeah, I mean it was a very, very poor, sloppy start, and
it was
about your point though about the good running, hit the ground running. I would agree, but at the same time, there is more of a chance to win the league in the second half of the season, because after the World Cup, I think we'll talk about it later, it's whoever picks themselves back up after the grueling World Cup in Qatar, that will go on to win it in the running.
True, but
And
you
who
still
comes
have to
back
give yourself
fit?
something to,
Yeah,
you still
agreed.
got to give yourself something to stand in the first half of
Yeah,
the
yeah, of
season
course.
before
I
the
mean,
World
of
Cup.
course. Well, we're talking about 95-point title races here, so no
Okay.
matter what, you have to be pretty much perfect.
How many points you think it will take to win fantasy this year? It was 2,000 plus last season.
I think easily we'll hit that again.
Yeah,
Easily.
I think
I don't
so.
think we've ever hit 2.5k, have we?
Yeah, and I think that might be
I
both.
know for a fact that Jamie Beach is the highest ever scorer because I lost by 3 points. But
Still, you're
I
not
think
bitter about it, are you?
It's just
I
the three
think
seasons ago.
I still think that was 2.4. So whether we
Right.
can get that 2.5 mark this year is, well,
I
we'll
think
see.
this is better than ever. We've got firing Salah, firing Son, we've got De Bruyne, and we've got Kane, Haaland, and Nunez, Jesus as well. I think it is a very good, exciting season.
I think it will be. I think it will be an exciting season. And
Yeah.
of course, when we talk about exciting season, we also have to, take a little bit of a reflection on the changing nature of the and composition of the league.
Yeah.
We've got three new teams in the league this season: Fulham, Bournemouth, and Nottingham Forest. Bournemouth, perhaps not any stranger. Fulham, not a stranger to the Premier League either. But Forest are back after almost 20 years away from
Yep.
the Premier League. So with the three of them coming back, what do you make of the start that in terms of what you saw last weekend?
Well, I mean, I think this is actually one of the best crops of promoted teams we're going to have in a while in terms of where they were at the base and what they've done in the summer. And when I say that, I'm particularly looking at Forest. They have had a monster transfer window. I'm not sure if you've been keeping up with it, but they have bought so many players. And obviously that could be a problem with how they gel. But I think the caliber of player that they bought has really surprised me and who they've managed to attract. And I think if they get their act together, can gel well, then they could be easily like mid-table straight away, honestly. And then as for Fulham, just watching their performance on the weekend v us, they went at us, and I really respect that from Marco Silva. I think he knows what the Prem's about. He's been relegated with Hull, and he's obviously had that torrid time at Everton. But the way they smashed the Championship last year, and I think the way he went attacking against Liverpool on the first day of the season, I think shows a lot of intent. And Mitrovic looks like a much more well-rounded player. He put in a masterclass via us, and I think
bullied your man. He bullied your man.
and they've put in a really good shift via us, and that was without even Harry Wilson featuring in their squad. And I think Harry Wilson's one of their better players, so it could be a promising start for both Fulham and Forest. But I have less hope for Bournemouth in that regard, despite the fact that they did win against Villa.
Well, it's a strong positive start for them, and I think the strategy employed by Forest is one that we've seen previously with Fulham themselves, actually.
Yeah.
Because if you remember a few seasons back when they were promoted, they went on an absolutely massive spending spree and still got relegated. So, Jesse Lingard going to Nottingham Forest, I thought was quite peculiar. Of all the places that he could have ended up, but they're paying him quite a sizable amount.
Yeah.
So clearly he's gone there. But I too expect Forest to perform quite well because I think they've got a really good coach and they play really, really good football. Mitrovic is the surprise package for me. If he delivers this season, because don't forget he's been here before and he's been a failure. But he looks as though he's worked it out. At least he looked that way last week against Liverpool.
It's a very big if. A very, very
well.
big
Well,
if.
it is because I think the last time he was in the Premier League that he did not really fulfill that number 9 role as effectively as he can. The guy is huge and he's got a really good touch, but for some reason it just didn't work for him. But if he gets it right this season, Fulham will stay up, and I think he'll score a lot of goals as he did last season.
I think even if you look in Fulham's midfield, they have the new signing Palhinha. The guy was playing for Portugal at the Euros. Yeah, and he was playing for Portugal at the Euros, and a Premier League team that has just been promoted can sign a player like that. I think it speaks to the size of the Premier League these days.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will see how those three get on. But of course, the summer has also been filled with a lot of transfer activity. And this, for me, I think has been the marquee signing of the league this season. Just look at the numbers, man. Just look at the numbers. Right? Just look at the numbers. 182 appearances, 134 goals. It tells you all you need to know. And on the international level, 21 caps, 20 goals. This guy is a goal machine.
Yeah.
All right. And I think playing in a City side that is the most creative in the league, you might disagree, Imran. um,
I would
I,
agree.
I expect at least, as a minimum, if he stays fit, 20 goals minimum,
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
easily.
yeah, 100%.
I mean, I guess the conversation really is it's not necessarily who wins the Golden Boot, but what number are we looking at by the end of the
Yeah.
season? Because like this could be huge. It could be one of the biggest goal scoring like Golden Boots we've had in a long, long time. Like,
Yeah.
I can't call it, to be honest.
I honestly
I
think
think
if he stays fit the whole season, I think he will get 30 goals.
I would agree. I think 20 as a minimum
Yeah.
is what this guy is capable of. He's just really,
honestly,
really
I think
superb.
I think that 20 mark is a pass or failure for Haaland. If he doesn't reach 20 goals, you got to reconsider like what he's done for the club. Like seriously,
Yeah.
if you've got a player that caliber and he's only scoring 19 goals in a 38 game season, especially if he's fit for the whole season,
Yeah.
you got to be asking questions.
So I suppose the question you've got to ask is, what is the success factor for Haaland and City this season?
Well, I think for City, when you look at a success in their season, you only look at one thing, which is that Champions League trophy. So if you can bring it to them, then obviously that's a major success. But I think the fact that he can mould in straight away will just be a big positive for them.
Yeah, I think so. This is the guy that Pep won't say it, but this is the guy that he's bought to win the big year trophy, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
100%. But I believe in this guy, so that's why he's going to feature quite a lot in my team this season. Because from what I've seen in Bundesliga and his early career and his international caps, listen, this guy is the real deal.
He is a
There's
monster.
no two ways about it.
Only
Real
question
deal.
I can put about it is at Dortmund towards the end, especially his injuries kind of spiked.
Yeah, his fitness started to really tarnish his performance.
Yeah, and that could be a problem in the more physical Premier League where the centre backs are bigger. But if he can stay fit,
he hasn't qualified for the World Cup, has he?
Yeah, and I think we can discuss that later because there is a lot of interesting points to make about that.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So, but of course, he wasn't the only marquee signing. This other guy isn't a new signing, but I think you've got to treat him as one, Imran, because as I said to you last season, listen, man, this guy has got to bring a finished package now to the league because he burst onto the scene in January. He had a couple of good games. He won a few trophies, etc.
Yeah.
Looks decent, but for me, he was a little bit disappointing in the final third in a lot of games last season. Is Diaz going to raise his game with the absence of Salah at Liverpool this season?
The absence of Mane. But
Sorry, the absence of it might be the absence of Salah. You never know.
I think it is a very typical thing for Klopp forwards once they've had a pre-season to just take their game up to the next level. I'm not sure exactly what they work on in the pre-season, but it obviously works and it has a track record of working with the likes of Mane and Salah and even Diogo Jota, for example. And I think straight away from Fulham, you do see a more refined Diaz. He is not just the tricks on the touchline. He can get his shot off quicker. I think he's thundered the post with a really good left-footed shot. And I think that alone just showed that he's willing to get his shots off more because I think the problem was he was dilly-dallying with it a bit too much and not being as confident as he should be. But what I will say is that the burden on him will not be as much as the burden that was on Sadio Mane because of the signing of Núñez. Like I think normally in our front threes we had the two goal scorers and the direct ones, which were Mane and Salah, with Firmino being the connector. And I think with Salah and Diaz, you'll get the two direct. I mean, with Salah and Núñez, you'll get the direct ones that will get the guaranteed numbers. And Diaz therefore might just take it a bit easier with the output. And I'd still say a successful season for Diaz will be probably, say for example, 15 goals and 5 assists in the Premier League. I'd very happily take that because I fully expect Salah and Núñez to break 20 goals each.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow.
When you say that, are you picturing like a partnership similar to Kane and Son, or just individual brilliance?
I think in terms of Núñez and Salah.
Yeah.
I think Núñez and Salah will be really, really good together. I think Salah has a really good track record of performing well with big strikers. His time at Roma was where he burst onto the European scene with Edin Dzeko, who we know is obviously 6'5" and huge. And their partnership, I think, was one of Europe's top before Salah ended up leaving. And I think in the snippets we've seen in pre-season, and then in the 35 minutes that Núñez came on v Fulham, it was a completely different game. I think Salah and Nunes together will be very, very good.
So 15 goals is your XG.
Yeah, 15 goals is my
Is your XG for Diaz this season?
yeah, 15 goals, or for example, 12 goals and 7 assists. So combined goals and assists, I'd expect 18 plus.
But I think the key point for him is if he doesn't step up this season, we are going to see a Liverpool that doesn't challenge as effectively as they did last season, because I think there's a lot of weight on this guy. And listen, he's a good player, but I just felt from the first part of his career, there's a little bit of end product missing there. But we'll see how he progresses during the first 6 of the season, eh?
We do have Diogo Jota and Fabio Carvalho in the ranks,
I was thinking,
which is a nice option to have.
It is true. It is true. So look, we are rebuilding again. at the Emirates.
Yeah.
I really think that this is a fantastic signing for Arsenal. I feel this is precisely what we need, a proper number 9 who can score goals, and similarly to Haaland, who can get on the end of our creativity, because Arsenal is a creative side that do create a lot of chances, and I think Jesus will thrive at Arsenal. He is another 20-goal man that I would expect this season. 20 goals, nothing less from him this season, and I think that he will propel Arsenal into a higher echelon of the table. I thought it was a good move, but I felt it was probably a little bit of a strategic move by Pep trying to perhaps strengthen some of the competitors that might be able to take points off of his main rivals, perhaps. But you never know. But fabulous signing for Arsenal. What do you think?
It kind of feels like we're throwing this 20-goal mark to everyone at this point.
Nothing less from these guys. Well, we think that Diaz is probably a little bit less, but certainly from Jesus and Haaland, I don't think anything.
And Nunes. It's the summer of the strikers. I think it is very exciting.
Yeah.
How Jesus v Haaland v Nunes adapt to their new teams, and I think it will be very, very good to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. The rise of the nines, man.
Yeah.
From a Chelsea perspective, it's pretty.
Oh, you haven't got anybody, have you? What's up with that guy, Lukaku? Oh, sorry.
Not just him, but like in the weeks, well, not even weeks, in the days that we've designed and like made this show, we've gone and sold Timo Werner as well. So like, we now don't even have a backup striker, and I'm sure.
Imagine Kyle is weeping because Chelsea is.
I'm sure.
That's hilarious.
I'm sure you know my opinions of Kai Havertz as striker, so we don't need to go into that too much. But like, it's just watching the Everton game over the weekend. It kind of looks like Tuchel wants to play Sterling in that central role, and I don't know how I feel about that either. I don't really have an opinion on it yet. But just seeing all these, especially the London clubs, because obviously I have a bit of a bias towards them. So these London clubs in Arsenal and Spurs just strengthening their sides in the way that they are, especially going up front. It's just putting a little fear into my head a little bit. Like, there's not really that much strengthening. Like this game over the weekend against Spurs is going to be massive. Like, I really, really hope that is as close as I want it to be, because on paper it doesn't look very close.
Let's come to that. So look, and sadly we weren't able to. We would have loved to have put a Chelsea number 9 in here to complete the deck, but we couldn't do it. So
it feels like it feels like a change in era, kind of almost like in the last 3 years or 4, maybe 5, you could say. The rise of the false 9 and not having a recognised striker with City and Liverpool felt like that was the way to go. But this summer, the shift seems to be the old school number 9s back in Haaland, Nunes, Jesus, Kane, and you may feel that Chelsea are being left behind a bit in that regard then.
I would tend to agree that, Chelsea have not strengthened well enough during the close season, and time will tell.
Yeah.
Well, we know that they have strengthened somewhat because, we're rolling back in the big transfers again this season, as we did last season, because there are few to talk about. You want to go down the line then, Imran?
Yeah, I think, we've spoken to Jesus, solid signing. I think he will score a lot, and I think he's got brilliant competition behind him with Nketiah. I think even though he played brilliantly v Palace, he didn't get his goal. No. Arteta brought Nketiah on, and that it did change the game. I think that's what Saka's goal came from, Nketiah's link-up play. So I think they are both really, really solid options. And Jesus will be the starter over 38 games. And if he starts all those 38 games, he will score at least 20. I would agree with you as well. And then looking at Chelsea, Sterling, I think what a signing if they had a striker. I don't think he can carry the burden by himself. I
agree.
I really like this signing, but then they just haven't, given him the support. I think he'll struggle. He'll score a few, but he will struggle ultimately with not having that link up. We thought Havertz would push on last season, but I don't know about you, Carl. What do you think of Havertz?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like Kai Havertz as a player, I love him as a midfielder, especially as a cam. He's honestly a fantastic cam. But you stick him up front at striker, and he's just a completely different player. And I hoped, because I would love to sit here and say, Everton, it would be a really nice, chill game. But we lost to Everton last season, so going into the opening game, I was a bit. But then I went into it and I saw that Sterling was playing up front, and I was like, because what they're doing is they're rotating between Havertz and Sterling. So like, if ever one goes out of position, Havertz will go into striker and Sterling will go out to the left, and Mount will always stay out on that right. And then if they ever go out of position, they'll just switch. And I just don't like that. Like, granted, Sterling on the left, I'm really comfortable with it. But then the second you put that into the box for Havertz at striker, it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, a month ago, I was sat in this position as a Chelsea fan thinking, goodness me, our back line definitely needs strengthening. I'm very, very scared. Like, forget up front. It's the back line that needs strengthening. Yeah. Then we strengthened the back line and sold only 2 strikers. And it's like we're back at square one. Like,
I'm loving this, man. I'm loving this.
I'm happy that, that we've signed Sterling. I'm very happy about that. But, like, it's not like we can play that City style and play without that recognised striker. We're not the same team. And we can't hold the ball as well as City do, as was clearly seen in that Everton game. So, yeah.
Well, we've got Richarlison in the middle, and I think the only reason he's in there is because we drew a bottom threshold of 40 million.
Yeah. Right? I can't believe he's sitting there in the middle of all these names.
Oh my word, man. What is he doing in there? It's like, well, I suppose we'll come back to him when we look at players and predictions for the season.
Yeah.
But I was very surprised that Conte actually went and bought him, given he had 60 million available. But if you got 60 million, you ain't signing Richarlison. Right. He's got a really good agent, I have to say.
He's not going to start. The Kulusevski-Kane Son from 3 is locked in. Why would you spend 60 million on a backup? It just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Incredible. Surely Lucas Moura starts ahead of Richarlison anyway.
But he's looking to get away anyhow.
Yeah, but still. Like, granted, for sure he is looking to get away, but even if he wasn't, I'd still back Lucas over Richarlison. Like, I just don't forget the price tag. I just don't understand the signing in general.
Well, I think it's one of the big shocks, but you never know. He might fit into Conte's system, and he might surprise us all, and he might, actually Spurs are top of the league at the moment. And
I mean, to be fair, we don't consider that he probably won't go to the World Cup, so we'll be fresher. And they do have Champions League football, as Mark will know. So
yeah, thanks.
It could be a good option to rotate, but I think there was much better options. You could have bought 2 wingers for 30 mil each that are better than Richarlison.
Yeah, man, that is surprising. And of course we've spoken about the 2 on the end, and those are the 2 that we're looking really blaze a fire across.
It's exciting. It feels like retro Premier League having 2 big strikers at the 2 top teams to like fight for it again.
Yeah. And but you said your guy Kane is going to be up there still, so it's true. We can't leave him out. It is very, very true. I don't disagree. So, game of the week. We've gone with Arsenal against Crystal Palace against Arsenal. First game of the season, and I watched this one. I thought it was important to see how Arsenal looked because we had a strong preseason. We scored a lot of goals. The team looked unified. And I thought the brand of football that the team are trying to play into this season is very exciting. So I wanted to see how we will start at Palace because it is a difficult place for Arsenal to go in recent times. Yeah. Fans are always on top of your back from from kickoff. Yeah. And I did notice though that Arsenal silenced them very, very early in the game. And if you look at the graphic there, you can see why. Because we maintained the attacking threat throughout the first half consistently, tailing off towards halftime. But Arsenal went and controlled the game at Palace. I can't say that I've seen that probably in the last 3 seasons at all, but it kind of gave you an indication of how confident the side is feeling to go to Crystal Palace, silence the crowd, dominate the game from the get-go, because you have to. If Palace get on top of you early, you ain't coming back. And it's a really marquee performance I felt from the Gunners, and I was happy with 3 fabulous points.
Yeah, I think what you say about the confidence is a really good point, because we can see from the graphic, the bit that stood out to me was that period between, I think, 60th and 85th, where Palace did come back at you and you were defending a 1-0 lead.
Yeah.
But you never looked in a frenzy, whereas in previous years, I think you would have given up that 1-0 lead, and instead you'd made the changes, got Nketiah on, and you actually scored 1 back at them to get that lead up to 2. I think the resilience you showed was unlike what I've seen in the previous years.
You should be very, very afraid, man.
Not just yet.
Listen, it's one game, but one game that I felt was really important for Arsenal, because had we done a Brentford first game of last season, you would never have heard the end of it, because clearly you spent all this money. We need to be able to see an immediate return. So I was pleased. I was exceptionally pleased with the result of Arsenal at the weekend.
Yeah.
So beginning the season, we always like to do a little bit of a player prediction. And we've put our thoughts here. You want to run us through yours, Imran, first of all?
Of course, I think.
Pull up the marquee ones, man.
First thing to point out is last season I went very reserved on Liverpool, and then we went and had a brilliant season. So this season I went and gone very confident on Liverpool. I didn't back my guy Salah last season, but then he showed me levels in the start of last season, so I've got to go with him again. I think the fact that he will have a whole month and a half to break during the World Cup and have another pre-season is just going to be torment for the Premier League. I think that's the bit where he normally dips is after January, and that's due to obviously losing the legs, which happened after AFCON last season. The fact that he has a 1.5 month break, I think he'll come back a different beast. It will be like having 2 start of the season Salahs, which is just scary for everyone. So I think assist numbers and goal scoring numbers will be through the roof again. Young player of the season, Bukayo Saka. I think it's always going to be between him and Foden at that age range, and I think Saka this season will take it up a level with his output. I think Foden is still struggling to get into that City team with all the quality that they have, so he's not a guaranteed starter. We know Saka will start 38 games out of 38 if he's fit, and I think this season, with now that you've got a proper striker in Jesus, you should be able to get the best out of Saka, and I think he could post a really good season with the numbers. Salah Golden Boot I've spoken to. Alisson Golden Glove, it's always going to be between Alisson and Ederson. I'll go with Alisson because he won it last season, and because I just trust Alisson as the better goalkeeper. I mean, another point to make is that City, I don't think, have a solid left back still, and I think they're in the process of trying to sort that out. But I think that does give us an advantage in defence over them. Signing of the season, it's another City v Liverpool battle, isn't it? Núñez v Haaland. I think Haaland will get maybe more goals, but overall, I think Núñez will get more goals and assists. I think he will be more creative and better linking up with Salah and Diaz, whereas Haaland will just be putting the goals in the back of that, which is fair enough. I think either way, they're both going to do incredibly well. Flop of the season, and I'm just looking across at all our flops of the season, and I think I could have chose any one of yours too. I'd really like Richarlison's out. And I think in all cases, it's just because of the sheer amount of money they've paid and all of them to be not starters. Cucurella's not going to be a guaranteed starter over Chilwell. Phillips is not going to be a guaranteed starter over Rodri, and Richarlison's not going to be a guaranteed starter in that Spurs front three. So, I think Cucurella. I don't even think Cucurella's remarkable. Honestly, he was good at Brighton, but that was probably his level.
I think he's good at best, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
A solid 6 out of 10.
The fact that you've put 50 mil on him,
50 million, man.
when
Come
you
on.
have Chilwell, who's 50 mil and a lot better, doesn't really make sense to me.
Panic. That's when the panic sets in, man.
It was not just 50 mil. It was not just 50 mil. It was 50 mil plus Levi Colwill, who is, ironically, my player to watch. I think, Kyle, I mentioned to you last season, I was following Colwill during his loan spell at Huddersfield, and I think he was brilliant. Had a brilliant, underrated season in the Championship. And the fact that
wasn't underrated by me, that's for sure.
Of course, a really exciting Brighton team under Graham Potter, you couldn't ask for a better match. He's a really good left-footed, strong, ball-playing centre-back, and I think he'll be starting for England in the coming years. That's how highly I rate him, and I really back him to have a really good season for Brighton this season.
Wow.
Fair enough.
Interesting. What about you then, Kyle?
Yeah,
your predictions.
I can't look past Salah either, to be honest. I think he's the best player in the league.
Oh,
like it's
come on.
honestly, he's just too consistent to look past, honestly. Just looking at Imran's young player of the season, Saka is my one to watch, and the reason I've put him there is because I think he is in a similar position to Luis Diaz, in the sense that this is, in my opinion, his make or break season for Bukayo Saka. Like, I think this is the season that he, proves himself apart from the rest of both the players in his team and a lot of the players in the league, because he still gets compared to a lot of people. So I think this is his season to shine. It's his season to make or break. So that's why I've got him on my one to watch. With young player of the season, again, I guess it just comes down to how much Foden plays, which is the same conversation we have every single season. But it is what it is. He's won it the last couple of seasons with a very limited amount of games, so I can't seem to look past him. I've got Haaland for Golden Boot just because the man is a magnet for goals. Like, you can't look past him, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, goodness me. Wow. I've also backed Alisson for Golden Glove. I think, similar to Imran, I think he's the better keeper. I also think Edison is too mistake prone, and a lot of people look past it because he plays for City. But I guess we'll come to that in the next couple of weeks. Signing of the season, I guess we've already touched on this, but it's going to be difficult to, kind of define what makes Haaland the signing of the season, if that makes sense. Because from a Premier League standpoint, I'm not sure how much Haaland can do to make himself a Premier League icon in this specific season, especially after City have won the league, like 5 times in 6 years.
That's a good point, yeah.
Like Premier League wise, I'm not sure. Like Imran said earlier, if Haaland only wins the Premier League this season, it's not I couldn't really look.
But what if they win the treble?
Well, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, if City only win the Premier League, and let's say they win an FA Cup as well, I'm not sure I could sit there at the end of the season and say that Haaland was the signing of the season. Like, they may have won those 2 trophies, but if you're looking at that team, you've got to win the treble pretty easily. Especially, it's not just the team, it's the squad depth. And I know I've said this multiple times, but that squad depth is unbelievable. Like, it's ridiculous how you could look at that team and not expect them to win the amount of trophies they do and more. Like, it's the conversation we were having at the Champions League night last season, which is you look at Liverpool, who've got the Champions League final and finished second in the Prem, and you're looking at Chelsea, who have got to 2 finals and finished third, and you're comparing those 2 squad depths to City, who have it's almost twice the amount of team. You're still the fact that the 2 teams in Liverpool are competing for the Premier League and Chelsea are competing for the 2 English Cups is just mental. Like, City, in my opinion, should be walking all 3 English Cups. That's just my opinion.
It's not that easy.
I'm not saying it is, but with the quality of the team that they have, it shouldn't be as challenging as it is to every other team in the Premier League, especially that top 6. But yeah, flop of the season for me has got to be Calvin Phillips, because I just can't see him playing at all. And even if he does, I don't rate him that highly.
Wow.
Agreed, yeah.
I honestly don't. Like, I this really came out of me during the Euros in, was it 2018, 2019, whatever year it was. Like,
21, Kyle.
It was just last year, and he's a good player, so leave him alone.
No, man. Honestly, I genuinely think he got exposed in the Euros. Like, he's just, when you put him in that team next to Henderson, and you just compare the 2 of them in one double pivot.
Yeah.
It's just,
But Pep will make him a great player. He's a good player. Pep will make him a great player. Just you.
Well, he can. I don't doubt that, but it all depends on whether he plays. Honestly,
I think he'll get game time.
Granted, City are going to go for those 4 trophies, so you never know.
Yeah, and you want to watch his Saka?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, look, I've gone for City to be champions again, because I think they've done the better business, and I think they've done what they needed to do in the window, and there's still more to come from them. I can't see past Haaland. I think he will be the marquee signing, as we said earlier. I think he will power City to the Champions League, And I think that they've got a very good chance this season of a clean sweep, actually, just on the signing of this one player if he stays fit. Um, Foden, I think, get more game time. I'm not convinced that Jack Grealish is going to fill that void left by Sterling as effectively as Pep would like, and I
Yep.
think that will open up a gap in that midfield, and I think Foden will potentially see more game time. Haaland for the Golden Boot and to smash Salah. He will score more goals than Salah this season, 100%.
Do you reckon he'll smash Salah's record of 32 in a season?
I think he could threaten it. It
Agreed.
all
Yeah.
depends on how he
Yeah.
settles and adapts. But I think the potential is there. I will go with Edison for the Golden Glove because I actually think he's a very good goalkeeper and he shared it last season and he's not going to concede a lot of goals. So I can't see beyond him and Allison for that. Signing of the season I've mentioned already. I can't see beyond Richarlison as a flop of the season. This is a signing that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
And I think Darwin Nunes will be the one to watch. But again, it depends on how he settles and how many goals he gets early on in the first 6 games. That could potentially determine what kind of season he goes on to have. So that's how we see it. Whether or not it plays out like that remains to be seen. But those are the players, and then of course we also have to talk about what does the league prediction actually look like, and this then goes beyond the conversation about champions because then we have to think about who finishes where. From my take, I think the couple of points I will point out here is I think Arsenal will jump into that top 4. I'm quite confident about that.
Yeah.
I don't think Chelsea will finish in the top 4 this season. I feel given where we are at the moment, they look a little bit lackluster and lost. The squad doesn't seem to be quite right for what Tuchel wants.
Yeah.
He seemed to be trying to define a system, but he don't seem to have the players to play the system that he wants to play. And I think Chelsea look a little bit a mystery to me.
Yeah.
I will still back United to get into Europe potentially. And I went with Forest beating the drop and Fulham being mid-table because I think Mitrovic is the key to that, though. I think potentially Leeds aren't going to hold on like they did last season. I don't think Bournemouth will hold on to the Premier League, and I feel Brentford's time with Christian Eriksen not being there potentially, there's a big loss of creativity, and I think they could be lost to the league at the end. So that's me.
And I think a lot of your points, I agree with you. I think all of us have got the same teams in the top 4.
You've got yours in the wrong order.
I mean, I was the one that predicted Arsenal top 4 last season when no one else did, so I did have faith in Arsenal in the project, and I still carry that on with the improvements they've made. I think Spurs, Conte, the fact that he's done it before, he will grind out wins, no doubt about it, and then Arsenal have Thursday nights to worry about as well, which is obviously not great. But I think Spurs will just about pip Arsenal, but it could go either way, honestly. Title race the same. Europe, I think I've been very, very, very positive in regards to Aston Villa, considering their start to the season. But I do have faith that Gerrard can steady the ship there and have a good season. Maybe not as high as I've put them there. I think United actually have a chance of not making Europe based on their start on their transfer window, because we haven't actually talked about them, but oh my gosh. They are, nothing's changed. Honestly, nothing has changed with them. I really thought something at least would be a bit better, but no. West Ham, will have a strong season. Leicester, I was very surprised to see the other day. They haven't made a single signing this season.
And that's why I've put them to beat the drop, because I think if they lose Tillemans and what's his name?
Fofana?
No, Tillemans and their creative midfielder, man. His name is slipped me.
Madison,
that's it. Yeah. I think if they lose those two, they're gone, because they haven't signed anybody and they look as though they could lose players. So for me, I think that they're going to drop to the lower half of the table because they just haven't got enough, and the squad has needed replacing for a while, and Rodgers hasn't really done anything there.
I would agree with you in that regard. I think Newcastle will carry on making good progress, but I think for now they'll stay where they are. I think they do have a quite low ceiling with Eddie Howe, but that's what he's there to do, is just to get them stable for a bit. And I think they've continued to improve. I think Wolves will be pretty disappointing once again. I think the manager has the potential to bring them into mid-table and back to where they were under Nuno, but the owners certainly do not share that belief. I think they've had a very poor transfer window once again. Everton, I think I've been a bit kind by putting Everton where they are, because I think Everton are going to be right back down there again. I do not trust Lampard. I think that the summer's been awful once again, and then with Calvert-Lewin injured for the first month and a half, I think they're going to really struggle. And like you said, Brentford,
an injury spell and a half. Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah. I think Leeds will be the reason I put Leeds as the best out of the relegation is because I think they have the better chance of pipping Everton to safety, or the Fulham or Forest in that regards. I think the fact that Bamford's back now and hopefully stays fit is huge for Leeds if he can regain some of his form. But then likewise, Brentford without Eriksen will struggle, and Bournemouth I just don't think have it once again.
Yeah. And you, Kyle?
Well, for starters, I do have to disagree with a comment that you've just made, which was that you think that City have done the better business. I have to say, I think Liverpool have done the better business, but I still think City will win the league. I honestly do think City have the better team, but I think Liverpool have strengthened more this summer than City have, if that makes sense. But
that's because they finished second last season, and I don't think the signings that they've made will propel them to the championship, and I think the signing that City has made strengthens their grip on the championship. But we can dispute that.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, similar like Imran has already highlighted, I don't believe we'll get top 4. But let me just hold my hands up. I don't think that's because we will have a bad season. I think it's just because Arsenal and Spurs will have a better season. And as a result, we're just not going to make it. We'll just get pipped to that top 4, and it's just going to happen. I don't see us as a match, to be honest, this season.
Wow.
Which I'm sure you are very, very happy to hear.
Absolutely.
I'm sure as well, I'm sure Imran would like to say that it's your bias that you've put you above Spurs, but I do think you'll finish above Spurs this season as well.
I think
it'll be close.
We will. If Spurs finish, the only reason I put Spurs there is because of Conte, and I think that he is the determining factor, not so much the team. I just think Conte is a really good manager, and I think if anybody can push them on even further than 4th or 3rd, he will. If he's there at the end of the season, of course, we always have to say that with Spurs.
With United, as bad as they seem to be, I still think on paper the team is good enough to finish in that 6th, 7th spot.
Yeah.
And I seem to have a lot of faith in both Moyes and Vieira at West Ham and Palace. West Ham especially. I'm gutted that they didn't qualify for the Europa last season. Just got pipped on the final day, but I guess that is their fault. I see that I've put Palace considerably higher than either of you, which I guess we'll see down the line. Imran, I have to say that's a very big bias for Gerrard right there, for Villa. Seriously, goodness me, that is very, very high.
Yes,
and
indeed.
Yeah, as we've just spoken about, Leicester, both Leicester and Wolves, to be honest. Again, in the days that we've made this, Wolves have gone and sold Cody to Everton. And in my opinion, he was one of their best players and definitely a big, big captain role. I think I was having this conversation with Chris the other day, because I heard when City were playing over the weekend that Pep decided to let the players choose their captain, which I thought was peculiar because normally the coach chooses the captain. And so I was looking at the Premier League captains, and in my opinion, Cody is, one of the best captains in terms of just pure leadership. Yeah. And so for Wolves to just sell him in the position that they are, because I can't say that Wolves are comfortable at all. Their season could go very, very down very, very quickly.
I'd agree with you. I'd agree with you that it's a big loss leadership-wise, but quality-wise, Cody has been well off it for, I think, a couple of seasons now. And I think if they want to move on, they have to get rid of players like that. I think it's a similar situation to Mings at Villa. And I think
I don't rate Mings that highly.
Yeah, I like Gerrard's decision. I think Gerrard stripped Mings of the captaincy, and I think that shows that he won't be a starter for the foreseeable future, which I think is a bold step to do considering he's the club captain, but it's one that needs to be done.
Well, he lost his first game, so when you make decisions like that, you better win.
True.
Of course.
So let's see how he gets on the first 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I am clearly the only person who thinks Fulham will still go down. I was very, very highly debating whether Fulham would finish 18th or Leeds would finish 18th. I do think both of them will go down. But I do think Forest will survive as well. So I'm very hopeful for them because, as you said earlier in the show, their business over the summer has been very, very good.
And the coach is brilliant, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So there we have it. So I suppose we will wait and see whether those predictions come to pass. This is a peculiar year, as we said at the top. So we've got a World Cup coming in
Yep.
November. For the first time, the Premier League is going to be suspended for 5 weeks, and we will be excited to have a World Cup during the winter. So it's probably going to be so strange, man.
Yeah.
What are your initial thoughts then on how the groups are forming together?
I mean, I think in terms of England, it's got to be a 9-point group. I think anything else will not set us on a good foot for the rest of the knockouts. Every team there should be beatable if we want to have expectations. But we are England under Gareth Southgate, so
Oh man,
it is what it is. I think in terms of who I back as an early contender for the win, you can't look past France, but I would actually say Germany because I think they have the best coach in the world in international football.
okay. Well, I always back Argentina as a Argentine fan.
Right.
Nothing to do with Messi. It's just my international team, and followed closely by England. But I kind of feel that England lost their chance on the global stage in the Euros last year. You've got to strike when you're in these competitions in the final, man. And
Yeah.
England were very, very disappointed in the final last year, and everybody's saying wait till the World Cup comes. But I don't necessarily think one follows the other. I think they do seem to have a pretty straightforward group, you would say, but at the same time, you got to then question, how much appetite they're going to have for it. Who's in the best condition going into it. On the back end of a rigorous Premier League season that's going to be curtailed.
Yeah.
The African champions, I think, are quite interesting to watch as well. To see how they will perform. You can never discount the Brazilians, regardless of how they look going into a competition. They've won it more than anybody else. So I think there's going to be some good matches. The timing of them will be very interesting as well in the evening. So I'm looking forward to it. A World Cup year is always an exciting year, if even this one is a peculiar one from controversy.
The point about England is a good one. I think 2018 and 2021 was when a lot of the major teams were having big dips in their international form.
You got to strike,
and
man.
I think they're all coming back into it, and that's where England will just get swallowed up again and be in with the pack. And I think, I'd say Portugal, Brazil, Germany, Spain, France are just all on the rise again, and I think they do have more than England nowadays.
Now, we haven't talked about Ronnie in this show, but clearly he is going to want to feature in this World Cup for Portugal. Ronaldo. And it's looking a little bit tricky for him at the moment, as we look at the beginning of the Premier League season and what his ambitions would be for going to the World Cup with Portugal, because clearly this is going to be, it's likely to be his final one.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the relationship with Ten Hag already looks a bit rocky. I think Ten Hag, but Ten Hag I don't think had him in his plans, but is going to be forced to put him in with the fact that they have no one else apart from Martial who's injured. So he will force his way back in, and whether that disrupts the flow will remains to be seen. I think Kyle can speak for United fans. I think he knows how it is when a number 9 doesn't want to be there. So how do you think it's going to go, Kyle?
Well, it's a frustrating one, especially like last season when Lukaku literally openly said, "I don't want to be at this club and regret coming here." It was a bit. And I guess it's different because last season Ronaldo performed, whereas for us Lukaku was very misfire. So I guess the difference between my situation a couple months back and United fans now is that I think United fans would rather Ronaldo stay, whereas me, I couldn't wait for Lukaku to go. But I think the thing with United fans is as loyal as they want to be and as loyal as they want Ronaldo to be, I think they know that it would be in Ronaldo's best interest to leave, but they don't want to accept it. And as a result, because they don't have a backup, they're just going to sink the second he walks out the door.
Well, I think, Ronaldo will look at this schedule with Ghana and Uruguay and Korea, and he will see goals to kind of further strengthen his legacy, wouldn't he?
100%.
And I think this is going to be quite an important one for him to try and get to this World Cup. So it kicks off on the 21st of November, and the final marketing diary, the 18th of December, which is quite unusual. And then, of course, we back straight to Boxing Day matches, I would imagine, in the Premier League when the season
mental when you think about it.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's a controversial World Cup, but it's happening. and it will be interesting. I see already Philip Lam has said that he won't be attending and he
Yeah.
won't be watching, and I
Oh,
think
wow.
quite a few people are taking a stance on this one on the grounds of human rights. So we will see how this plays out and what happens, because I'm a little bit concerned with how this is going to play out, particularly with fans over the course of the tournament. So we'll
Yeah.
see how it goes. But interesting one for the Premier League, I think, as we battle with how things are going to be different. And this, I think, is probably the biggest factor in this season. And
And that's a big reason why I've actually given Liverpool the advantage over City. I think this World Cup actually benefits us more than any other team, because despite having a lot of stars, there is factors which affect a lot of our players' international positions. So Salah will not be there, Luis Diaz won't be there, Trent Alexander-Arnold should be starting, but we know how Southgate doesn't really fancy him in that England team, so he could have a good rest. Same with Henderson. Same with Thiago. Even is out of favour in the Spanish team right now. A lot of these players who are star players for us will be getting a big rest in the middle of the season, and I think that really could help us.
Virgil will be there.
Virgil will indeed be there.
Allison will be there.
Alisson will be there.
Trent, I can guarantee you, will be there. We're going to play the legs off of him so we can make sure we send him back to Liverpool.
I mean,
as a Chelsea fan, I would love James to start, but this Southgate guy just has such an agenda against Trent. Like, I've never understood, of all the little debates that have always been in the Premier League, the one that really just baffles me the most is that Trent v James v somehow Wan-Bissaka. Like Kyle Walker gets thrown in the mix, and I can understand that, but how Wan-Bissaka gets into the conversation is beyond me.
I think everybody, even United fans, accept it now that Wan-Bissaka.
All right, well, look, we will see how that tournament shapes up, and when Southgate announces his side, I expect to see your man in there, man. I expect to see the Arno featuring. So then, first six as we wind down. Arsenal's first 6 games of the season, we've got Leicester this weekend at the Emirates, which I fully expect us to grab another 3 points. Then it's Bournemouth, Fulham, Aston Villa, and the big one on the 4th of September, Manchester United at Old Trafford. I see nothing there that causes me any concern whatsoever. I'm fully expecting us to return 18 points, and I'm confident about that. Absolutely 100%. So this is not the Arsenal of last season.
Yeah,
I'm going big. I expect us to return 18 points with this 6. There's nothing there.
That's good. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. What do you mean? Wow. Well, because we are confident side. So
yeah,
I think we've got to make the statements that are commensurate with who we are now, man. I'll pass it across to you, Kyle.
Oh dear.
Confident.
Yeah, similar. Like one thing that has kind of gone under the radar is because Liverpool drew over the weekend, it was more obvious as to how their performance was a bit lackluster. Yeah. But I think the win we got against Everton, by all means, yeah, we did deserve the win, but we were nowhere near our best. And I think if we play like that with the majority of the teams that we've got for these next 5 games, we could be in a lot of trouble. Like, again, I do not see us winning this game. If we play like we played against Everton, there's no way we're getting anything from this game, even though we're home. And to lose our opening game at home will not be a nice feeling, especially with our fans, because I'm sure you know how quick our fans can be to turn on literally anyone. So yeah, I'm quite worried. But Leeds, that should be a nice game. Leicester, that should be a nice game. Southampton, it should be, but it is away, so I'm a bit shaky about that. And West Ham, of all the games, obviously apart from Spurs, I'm quite shaky for that game as well, because I rate Moyes very, very highly.
How many points, Kyle? How many points?
I've got to say at least 13. I've got a hope for a draw against at least Spurs and West Ham. I've got to get a draw in at least one of them. If we don't get any points from Spurs or West Ham, then I'm not sure I can be satisfied with that start at all. Because even though we haven't improved the squad is still good enough to get that European spot.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't think we'll get top 4, but there's no way we should be finishing outside the top 6. That's unbelievable. Yeah. And so to go, I do think we should get at least 1 point from the 6 against West Ham and Spurs. And I see Leeds, Leicester, and Southampton as easy wins, to be honest.
Fair enough. Imran?
I think obviously not the start anyone envisaged, but I
You're
think
not going to get 18 points from these 6.
I know. Looking down, it is pretty kind to us. We've got obviously the big 2 games there in the Man United and Everton rivalries, but if recent history is anything to go by, we need to worry about Crystal Palace more than Man United.
I agree. I would
But,
agree with that.
I think the game against Crystal Palace is important just to stamp the market out and show we are actually turning up for this season. It'll be at Anfield, so should be quite easy to do. And I expect Nunes to start now and be completely molded in. I think we should just get a statement win there, which will give us confidence for those few games. And I expect us to win every single one of those games quite comfortably, hopefully.
Well, not 18
Not
points.
18.
Not 18 points from the 6. Yeah, just
16 points. 16 points out of the 6. Yeah.
That'll do you nicely. Thank you very much. But it's good to hear that you're not going to return a full flush. So that's great news. So this weekend, the fixtures for game week 2. A few tasty ones in there, but we've chosen your fixture, Kyle, as the fixture of the weekend. Chelsea at home to Spurs on Sunday at 4:30. And we know you're nervous, but you've been saying it all show.
It's that opening home game of the season against a very, very strong Spurs side. And what's interesting as well is I'm not sure I could give you a starting lineup. And that's what worries me, because I'm not sure of the system that we're playing at the moment. And to go into the second game of the season against Spurs with that mindset isn't very, healthy.
But I can guarantee you that Conte will come there to win.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So much more settled. It will tell us a lot, this game, actually. I'm really excited to watch. I think it will tell us exactly where Chelsea are at and exactly where Spurs are at. And I think if Spurs go there and turn them over, I think you'll know that Spurs are guaranteed that top 4 position. I think it will be a big statement.
I expect Spurs to go there and turn them over, actually. I just think that Spurs, they just look settled. The manager is ready for the challenge, and I think he's got the players that he wanted, and this Spurs team look as though they're going to be threatening all during the season.
I will say, I don't think there'll be a lot of goals in this game, because I think we know Conte. I think we know Conte likes to, especially away from home, he's a nice compact manager on the counter. But then Chelsea's strong point is still their defence. They have managed to replace Rudiger with Koulibaly, and obviously they've strengthened their depth. And Chilwell, is back with Reece James there. So I do not expect too many goals. I think it'll be a cagey affair, but I think Spurs may get the win.
The thing with Cucurella is interesting, because first of all, the excuse that most Chelsea fans are giving everybody is, Chilwell's out for years, for months even, and there was nothing we could do to replace him. And I'm sure you could see that injury was the thing that started our downfall last season.
Yeah.
And granted, Chilwell is still on the road to recovery, but he's still starting. He started the game against Everton and he played 70 minutes, and Cucurella came on for the final 20. And granted, we were still a decent. Granted, Cucurella has fit into that side, but there's no way he's starting over Chilwell.
Yeah.
And it's only going to take a month and a bit for Chilwell to be back to full recovery. And so I can understand why he's your flop of the season, to be honest.
I expect to see my boy Son sitting down one of those centre halves at Chelsea over the course of this game and banging in a couple of goals, man. And I don't think it will be a cagey affair at all. I think Spurs will win quite easily, actually.
I don't think you can go to the bridge and win easily.
But you see, I just think Chelsea are a little bit confused this season.
I agree, but I think that's mainly to do with their attack rather than defense. I think they'll
never.
See.
Yeah, true.
We'll see.
If there's one thing I would stand for, it's the roasting our defense, because
roll on 6 o'clock on Sunday.
It is a really hard one to call, and that's why we're all excited for it, I guess.
True.
So, not that it means a lot, but here's the table. Headed by the North London clubs, Tottenham and Arsenal, Bournemouth and City rounding out the top 4. Not a lot you can really say about that. It's the first week of the season. Points on the board, clean sheets on the board, and that is where we are going to leave that, because I don't think there's much point talking about what is going to happen there. We will see what that looks like properly at the end of maybe about 6 games, I think. So, end of the first week. Any closing thoughts from either of the two of you?
I think let's see what Liverpool can do with Nunes starting a Premier League game. I think that's what I'm carrying hope of, because that 35 minutes against Fulham that Nunes came on has given me hope for the rest of the season.
Listen to you.
Yeah. I think, well, like Imran has said at the beginning of the show, it's going to be very, very interesting for the entire season to see that Haaland versus Kane battle, specifically in Fantasy Premier League. Because without a doubt, there's going to be disparity. And I think it's going to be like the back end of last season, where we had that Wayne with 3 Spurs players versus Paul with 0 Spurs players. I think it could be like that all over again.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a great season, potentially a record-breaking season in the Premier League. It's certainly likely to be a record-breaking season for us in our fantasy league. We've already got more players than we've ever had, so we've already broken some records there. So really looking forward to it. Excellent first show. Welcome back, guys. And if you're watching this one on the watch back, share it along. And we hope to catch you when we are next on here with our next show in game week 3 or 4, I think. But keep an eye out on the We Global YouTube page, where you'll find us over the course of this season. So until next time, that's us over and out.
Bye.
See ya.